Music producers, it's Curtis King at CurtisKingBeats.com, and you're watching another episode of Bangers on a Budget. I feel like Bowser. Music producers, what's going on with you? This is the show that we basically take nothing but the stockest of the stockest sounds from FL Studio and show you that pretty much any style, especially in hip-hop, can be recreated with just the stock sounds. In the last episode, we got a suggestion from from Producer Race. He said, make a 21 Savage type beat and $5 or $0 budget. I'm pretty sure you don't talk like that, but it was fun doing that. So I decided to take on that challenge. I think even the Crow, what's up, the Crow? You always the first one to comment. I think he even suggested a 21 Savage type beat. I learned some things from the last episode. The last episode I did a Ski Master Slump God, and there were some fans of his that came in and were like, that doesn't even sound like something he would rap over. And I was like, well, it was a type of beat, not an actual beat that he's rapped over. So today I decided to do things a little differently. Let me explain something first. I worked on this beat in FL Studio 12, and like a dummy, I decided to reopen it up in FL 20. The reason why? Because I kind of just wanted to mess around with some things and get used to it. Why was I a dummy for that? Because I couldn't go back to my FL Studio 12 file. Anyways, I didn't have to admit that, but I have no shame. What you're looking at right now was like my first beat, kind of, put in FL20, but basically this is the 21 Savage beat, and to stop y'all from talking about, it don't sound like a 21 Savage beat, I got 21 Savage himself with the acapella to accompany me. So first I'm gonna play the beat for you, and then after that we're gonna break down some of the different sounds and different EQs and techniques that I use. Let's play the beat first. I took an acapella from 21 Savage X, and this is what I did with it.
10 bad, teaching bad, wrist on, Millie rock, no diamonds on me, diamonds. When you working hard, then your money start smash. I got model bitches wanna lick me like some can. And them drugs come in hand. Last name Savage, bitch, but no, I'm not ran. Hit her with no condom, had to make her eat a plan. And I'm sipping on that codeine, not brandy. 10 bad, teaching bad, wrist on, Millie rock, no diamonds on me. When you working hard, then your money start smash. I got model bitches wanna lick me like some can. And them drugs come in hand. Last name Savage, bitch, but no, I'm not. Hit her with no condom, had to make her eat a plan. And I'm sipping on that codeine, not brandy.
So yeah, that was the beat. What we're gonna do is break down the elements instrument by instrument so you can see what I did. Now for the editing on the drums, I pretty much did the same thing that I showed you guys in the last video when it comes to the 808s and the kicks. I mean, when you listen to 21 Savage music, at least on the Issa album, you notice that he has a lot of sub basses, a lot of sub 808s, and just that one type of snare that's in the 808 kit. Obviously, we don't have that same snare with the stock sounds, but we still got something that kind of sounds like something he will groove with. We found a clap that has a quick release. This is why I kind of keep things the same when we're doing trap beats. Next episode, maybe we're gonna do some hip hop stuff. You can see the variations in using the stock sounds. Anyways, let's break this one down one more time. So for the 808 itself, first thing I did was shape it. So the way that I shaped it is pretty much the same way I always shape it, which is take the delay down, take the attack down, put the hold almost to about 50%, probably about 40%, and then I take the decay slightly down here, sustain all the way down, and then the release time is slightly up, probably about 5 or 10%. I've got it shaped, and I can pretty much control the release of it. Cool. So when it comes to the actual effects that I added onto it, this is my 808 channel. The first thing I did was some EQing. Basically, I isolated all this bass and sub bass area by changing the band types and changing the band order, and then sliding the number 7 frequency, which is the treble frequency, all the way down. So you see how I got this right here? Bam. Next thing, fast distortion. I took the preamp all the way up, took the threshold about 60% up. I have it on B distortion type. I have the mix level right up there to about, it's about 90%. And I took the post pretty similar to where that's at as well. Something else that I did was I added a limiter to it. Why'd I add a limiter? Because I wanted to do a side chain. How did I do a side chain? Well, I'm gonna have to go to the kick for that. So for the kick, I shaped it first. That's all you got to see about that. Then I went over here to the mixer. What I did was I basically boosted just this bass and low mid. This is like the higher part of the bass. I still want a little bit of that thump, but I don't want it to interfere with my 808. That was it for that, actually. So I just brought out the thumpness in that. So I took insert one, which has my kick, and then I right-clicked here, and I put sidechain to this track. Okay, and that's the 808. Once I was on there, open up the limiter, and you can kind of pause the screen and look at some of these settings, but the things you want to pay attention to is, of course, taking it over to comp, having it sidechain for input 1. The release should be right about here, and you can change this stuff as you start to hear it react to the kick. But basically, it's sidechained it so that every time the kick hits, the kick feels more prevalent because the 808's ducking out of the space of that kick. What I did was I doubled down the kick, and I basically have like 2 different frequency kicks. So these are both kicks that you're gonna find within the vintage kit, which is also in the legacy drums. Hi-hats. I found these hi-hats in the hip hop pack in the legacy drums for FL Studio. The snare, beefy. I found that snare in the vintage kit as well. And then here's the EQing that I did for the snare. So the snare, I just took it through a fast distortion. I took the mix slightly up on the left side. Then I took the preamp all the way up, the threshold all the way up, distortion type B, and I took the post gain all the way up. And it kind of gave me a nice little cut through on the mix. Next, I had these sort of echoed claps. Another clap that was like a slow release that I'd really just shake. Open hat. And I think that was it for the drums. I think it was a cymbal. Didn't really do anything EQ-wise to those. Here's the plugins that I use directly from the stock sounds on FL Studio. There's a plugin called Auto Gun that has a lot of interesting sounds. It has about 2 features. I believe one is a master volume, and the other one is something they call magic dust. Ooh, add the magic dust to it. So then that's what I did. So basically, I found this one sound that's called Thick Whiz. And then the other sound that you heard in here was another Auto Gun sound, and this one is called Sustaining Air. And the next Auto Gun that I use is called Pure Murmur, and this one sounds like this. I like using those sounds because they give a little bit of momentum to your melody and they make it feel progressive as it's pushing through the track. It's those subtle things that make the track feel like it's moving faster than what it actually is. It's only 150 BPMs, which is what a lot of 21 Savage beats are. They're like 160, 150. Oh, some of you were asking me about some of the automation I did on here. Yeah, so this is where we might have to have a whole nother tutorial for it, but long story short, whatever you want FL Studio to do, you can set an automation clip to affect that. So say for instance, you gotta be on song mode to do this, but say for instance, you wanted to change the volume in the beginning of the song, right? You wanted to, let's copy the value of this first just so we can know where we started from. Say you want this to start at like -18 decibels and you want it to slowly and gradually go up to 100. Well, basically what you would do is right click that, create automation effect. And if you go over here to your playlist, you'll see this is the new automation clip that you created. What I like to do, especially because I don't want to lose this space, I will copy the value. I think I already did that, but copy the value, right click here anywhere. Usually I'd like to click on the lines. And then once I do that, I can mess with this at my leisure. So just drag this down. You hear the volume? Maybe you didn't hear the effect. Let's go do a little more dramatically. See? So that's basically how you control everything. I think the only other things I want to show you before we go ahead and duck out here is I had these effects that I found. Like I found this noise punch. Added a reverb on that. I had this 8-bit drop. But the whole point is that all of these sounds are within your FL Studio. So don't feel like you have to go out and buy a whole bunch of third-party VSTs to get it popping. You just saw a 21 Savage beat made with nothing but the stock sound. So I'm gonna leave you one more time with the beat, and then we're gonna peace out.
Wrist on Millie, rock them diamonds on me down. When you working hard, then your money start expanding. I got model bitches wanna lick me like some can. And them drugs come in handy. Last name Savage, bitch, but no, I'm not ran. Hit her with no condom, had to make her eat a plant. And I'm sipping on that codeine, not brandy. 10 bad, wrist on Millie, rock them diamonds on me. When you working hard, then your money start smash. I got model bitches wanna lick me like some can. And them drugs come in hand. Last name Savage, bitch, but no I'm not. Hit her with no condom, had to make her eat a thing. And I'm sipping on that codeine, not brand.
I'm tired. Well, that was another episode of Bangers on a Budget. If you have any suggestions, please leave it in the comments below. Catch your breath, Kurt. Once again, this is Curtis King, CurtisKingBeats.com. Peace. Please subscribe to the channel below, Curtis King, CurtisKingBeats.com.